All right, everybody. Welcome to today's Local Yokels Podcast. I'm Neil Colley, your host. And as we get started today, I want to thank all of you for joining us and following and watching, clicking, liking, sharing. Some of the content lately has got us a lot of attention. And thank you very much for watching and tuning in and sharing. That's amazing. So one of the things I do, as you guys know, I like to promote all things local. So I've got a couple of companies here. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to my friend Hannah Lasapio at Happy Mind Psychiatry. And Derek's going to prompt that stuff for us. But go visit her, call her. She says y'all not calling her enough. So get on the phone and get a hold of her. She can help y'all out with, just personal mental health. Maybe you need somebody to listen to you a little bit. I think we could all use sometimes somebody outside the family that's not really tied into what we got going on. So, and I think she'd be a good source, her and her team over there. So check them out. Happy Mind Psychiatry. All right, my next little plug I'm going to do. I stopped in today and shame on me, man. Shame on me. I have got the sweet tooth. All right. So, but I do have a couple of friends that I want to mention. One of them, the first one, Hey Sugar Cake Company. They're in Hernando, Mississippi. They're at 117 West Commerce Street. Tiffany Williams owns it with her family. They got some amazing treats. And I thought today I'm going to stop in and get some, and unbelievable. So I can tell y'all. So I'm going to hold these up. This is a pecan cake. Unbelievably incredible. This is a, believe it or not, if I get the names wrong, this is what I tell you it was? Creme brulee croissant. That's what it was. And all kinds of assorted cookies and cakes, man. They got everything over there. But anyway, go check them out. I want to give them a shout out. Hey Sugar Cake Company. They're on 117 West Commerce Street, and the owner is Tiffany. Tell her I sent you over here at the Local Yokels. I think they're open from Wednesday through Saturday around 11 to midnight, somewhere in that range. So go check them out. Get a sweet treat. Enjoy yourself and support a local business that is thriving and trying to help the community. All right. And by the way, the main reason why I stopped by is because I'm a coconut fan, and they didn't give it to me, but they tried to, but I told them, heck no, I'm paying for it. So, but anyway, it's a coconut cake, and it's about the right size. It's a great little serving, it is. Because I would eat one 10 times that size given the opportunity. So, all right. So go check them out. Thank you guys again. And, also I want to talk to you about Quinley Bee Wrangling LLC. Okay. You can find them on Facebook. They're all over social media. However, they got these cool little bottles. They're a very local bee company. So the honey is local. That's more important than anything in the world. When you buy it out of the stores, it's got to come from a local place to really do the benefits. Anyway, they got all the specs on the back of it, which is kind of cool. The nutritional guide values, which I think is cool. They got some really nice gift bottles. This one's glass, pretty amazing. I want to say it's like $20. I believe this one's 10. This one is the same amount. I want to say it's a 1 pound bottle. Yes, that is correct. And it's, I believe, 15, they said. And it's because it's not in glass. It's actually, and they give you this little handy dandy, I don't know what you call that, but you dip it in. Honey's kind of messy sometimes. So instead of getting your hands dirty, you can just open up the lid, take that thing, drip it on your biscuit or whatever you're going to do. But go check them out. They're also in, if they're from Lake Commerce, Mississippi is where they're at. You can reach them at 901-494-6706. They got another number, but I'm going to stick with that one. They, by the way, were mentored and raised up in the bee world, by Mr. Jimmy Deaton. He's a long time, everybody knows his name. And he's the one who helped them get in this. They bought all his equipment. He showed them how to get in the game. So check them out. Also, they are at super low grocery stores, South Haven on Goodman Road. And then they are also, I believe they sit in Memphis on Spotwood and Quince, also in super low. K's in Senatobia, Primo's in Hernando. We all know that and love that place. In Hernando, is it Bazaars? Is that the name of it?
I believe so.
Bazaars Bakery or whatever it is down in Hernando on 69. Quick Stop on Fog Road, I-69. And they also do driveway sales. So check them out. Look for the brand Quinley Bee Wrangling. And by the way, these 3 bottles, and I was talking to Derek, how do we give these away? Okay. So I guess I would say when this episode, if you're watching, be the first person to comment, we're going to give you a bottle of honey. The amazing honey, the nectar of gods or whatever. So anyway, if you do that on Facebook, I'm going to give all 3 bottles away. Let's just do it that way. I'll do the first 3 comments, regardless of what it is. it would really prefer you to say, how about you just put in there Quinley's B, and that way I know you are listening. Is that cool?
That's good.
That's good. I think that's good. All right. Without further ado, my special guest today is Miss Misty Gray of Healing Hearts Child Advocacy Group.
Yes.
Thank you for coming in and joining us.
Thank you.
All right.
For having me.
So that's what I was talking about. Like, big topic right now, huge topic.
Yes.
Again, coincidentally, because we been planning this for a couple of months. You had a little bit of stuff going on with the family, and you also had a lot of work going on. I didn't ask questions. I was fundraising for Feed My Lambs, and you're like, yeah, let's just get back together late October. And then here we are with all this stuff going on. So it's been scheduled for a little while. Thank you for finally agreeing to come in and chat with me.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's just touch on the thing that's the elephant in the room with everybody. First of all, we're sitting here really at the moment when Sheriff Tuggle gets on, and thank you, by the way, Sheriff Tuggle, and announces that she's been federally indicted.
Yes.
Lindsay Whiteside, and arrested.
Yes.
So guys, hooray, hooray. You know what I mean? Thank you to the Sheriff's Department, all the investigators, district attorneys, the federal investigators. Thank you to all of them. And probably thank you to you guys, because I'm sure somewhere along the way y'all were involved in this case as well. I know we can't speak on it, but you are. All right. Yeah. So anyway, yay. all the outrage, you mama bears. It worked. So the Aubrey Johnsons and everybody else of the world that just kept this thing, because I got to tell you, man, they may have already been looking, but I promise you they were looking more than ever after all the stuff these ladies have been doing. So, and guys too, by the way. So thanks to everybody for keeping it up in there. Now we're on to the next problem.
Yes.
And this is a big issue. We won't even talk no more about Lindsay Whiteside because, look, it's past tense now, other than the people who support her and continue to support her. And by the way, if ever there's a time, now is the time to pull your support and say, we didn't know. We just didn't know all the details. All right? There's nothing wrong with that. Just drop your ego. You know what I mean? You can't support a predator, a sexual offender. You just cannot do that and hold public office, ma'am. Sue who you want for saying what you want. I'm just telling you, it's not right, you know? Yeah. And so I know you can't say names and agree, but I can. I'm not saying their names. I'm just saying if you're going to hold public office, you got to be accountable for your support, for who you support. In general.
We're professionals.
Absolutely.
And whether you work for the schools or a social worker, law enforcement, doctors, medical, it doesn't matter. When you take that, you're taking an oath. Each of us have a different oath. Like I have the social work code of ethics, values, and morals. Teachers have theirs. Yeah. Lawyers and doctors or, whoever have theirs. So the point, though, is that if we are being held higher.
At a higher standard.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Very much higher. Yeah. And we have to be mindful of the words that we're doing, the words we're saying, anything that we're doing as far as out in public, especially if it's going to hit social media in a way.
Sure.
So,
man, listen, I didn't even know about y'all till a while back. And I mean, I was assuming there's some agency, you know what I mean, behind it, because I knew that there's limits to what local law enforcement could do sometimes because it crosses state lines, and things of that nature. And so there has to be some kind of independent organization probably that helps them, a team of experts, and then I find out about y'all. I actually found out about y'all by the one that's in Memphis because there's a sistering organization.
Child Advocacy Centers.
Yes, absolutely. So I know that you're not exactly tied together, but you are sisters in a way, from a standpoint of you got the same goal in mind, protecting the children and absolutely advocating for them. Yes. So tell people a little bit more about how you got started, where you got to today, about the program, how, what your goals are. And I want to remind people, by the way, this thing is a nonprofit. It's not governmentally funded. I'm sure there's probably some grants in place or something they write for to try to get funding. Yes. But it is, again, another unfortunate part of being in Mississippi is there is not a lot of help for if you want to do things. So we have to advocate to our business leaders and our individuals in the local community to help fund these organizations like Healing Hearts, Child Advocacy. So go ahead.
So I personally started my career probably about 20 years ago this December.
Okay.
With child abuse, believe it or not. I worked for Child Protective Services for many years. Tried to get away from it. But that is not what
was your calling.
No, it was not. And so I got back into Child Protective Services again. And then a door opened at Healing Hearts Child Advocacy Center, and I've been there, it'll be 8 years in March.
So how long have they existed as an organization?
They opened up in 2013. They opened the doors in March 2013.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, and what it is so I can see it, I can explain it from a CPS side, and I can explain it from just a nonprofit side
Okay.
too. So what happens is if there's an allegation of any type of abuse, possible felony abuse, or a child that witnessed a serious crime. So you could say sexual abuse, sex trafficking, child pornography, felony physical abuse, physical neglect, witness to a crime, and drug endangerment. Instead of law enforcement and or CPS interviewing that child, what they do is they send us the referral, and then the child will come to us. And if it meets our protocols that we decided on as a county, then the child will come in, get a forensic interview. The interviewer is child first trained, and they keep up their training throughout the year. So they have to go to many peer reviews in a 12-month span, and then they got to show one of their own interviews to the other interviewers in the state.
Okay.
That way they get feedback. And their point of the interview is to, one, we keep the child first, no matter what. That child pretty much controls the interview in a way, but we just lead it in the way we need to lead it. We don't ask leading questions. They're all very open-ended questions. But the other point is they're assessing that child from the minute they step into that interview. Okay, we have a 5-year-old. Is this 5-year-old really on a 5-year-old level? Or is this 5-year-old on a 3-year-old level?
Right.
So they
you have to
drop
evaluate the mental capacity at that point in time. So,
yes. And so they're going to get the child to be able to tell their story one time.
Yeah.
That is the hope.
Yeah.
Just one time.
Right.
Because every time they have to tell that story, they're being re-victimized and they're being traumatized again and again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
with the case we're dealing with right now, it's an older person, but there again, they're still having to relive the trauma over and over and over, that we're talking with the Whiteside case, the victims, thank goodness they're still trying to protect her from the public outlash. But but still she has to get, I think the strength, right? The strength it takes. Imagine that being not a 17 or 18-year-old victim, but a 6 or 7, 8-year-old victim, or even younger, and having to go through not understanding really what you're having to go, like, why am I having to relive this, not the understanding. So it's important. So go ahead and continue with that.
So they're in the interview, and what they're trying to do, the interviewer is trying to gather as much evidence as they can for law enforcement and CPS.
Without leading them.
Yeah, without leading them.
Yeah.
So it's very open-ended. So let me tell you, if the kid needs to sit there and cry for 20 minutes, they're going to let the kid cry for 20 minutes. If the kid's like, I can't do this, they'll say, hey, you know what? Sometimes kids come back and talk to me more than one time. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to let you go back out with your family that brought you here. Would it be okay maybe later on you come back and talk to me? Because we don't want to traumatize the child. And their point, though, is mainly to gather all the details that they can. What did they smell? What did they hear? What did they see? Where was this? Who did what? Is there anything else? If their child is referred to as for sexual abuse, they're also scanning for any other type of abuse that happened to that child.
Right. Because there's probably a bunch that comes with it on top of that.
There's history of it.
Absolutely.
So once that is done, the interviewer will then go into what we call our observation room. And inside our observation room is the law enforcement officer that is assigned to the case. And, if CPS is assigned, they're in there too.
Yeah.
And our MDT coordinator comes in. That's another program we have. It's called MDT coordination.
Okay.
And they're going to all discuss the case. Okay. The family advocate's going to come in. That's another program we have at Healing Hearts. And they're going to discuss, one, what are the needs of the child? What are the needs of the family as a whole? Where are we going with this investigation? Does a search warrant need to be done? Does the kid need to be in custody? Does there need to be a safety plan? Does the kid not have clothes?
Right. There's a whole bunch of things. Food, clothing, all that stuff that goes on.
They're looking at
medical,
all of that.
Everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's medical, too, because we do have a medical partner, and they're in Memphis at the LeBonner Children's Hospital.
Amazing organization.
Yes. And so it is a pediatrician that specializes in child abuse.
Wow.
And so she'll see the children and, do a full physical. And there's things that they've caught before that may not have anything to do with the actual, the bruising on the child. It was more like a kidney issue or, a cancer. So they do head to toe.
Amazing.
Yes,
Amazing.
on the children.
So just like something possibly they haven't had like a physical done before because of neglect and things. And now you find this unfortunate coincidental thing that where you, but also life-saving potentially, where they can actually help them in multiple ways.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing.
So that interview then is given to law enforcement. It is not our interview. It is law enforcement's interview at that point. That is evidence in the case.
Sure.
So nobody else gets to see it. It's not going to come out until it's time for court.
Yeah.
Until it's time for court. And if the interviewers need to go testify, they can. If somebody needs to go testify as far as being an expert, they can. But while all that's going on, our family advocate is meeting with the non-offending caregiver. And I want to make that very clear, because if mom or dad is the alleged perpetrator, they're not allowed on our premises.
Right.
So wherever that child is currently placed, or if we had to get grandma to bring him to transport him, that's who we're going to meet with.
Sure.
And the family advocate's job is to assess the family as a whole.
Find out who's the danger, stranger. Yeah. Well, at this point, not the stranger, but the whatever you call it. I don't know, sick. That's what I want to call it. So I don't mean to make light of it, folks, but man, I'm just like ready to get up and fight right now, just hearing about it, So more intricate than people think. It's not just cut and dry.
It's a lot of different programs.
Yeah. A lot of people in play trying to help this one child to make sure that they're never harmed again.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
So we're looking at the safety. We're looking at their current needs, their mental health needs.
Sure.
Anything that child needs, and it extends to the family too.
Sure.
We want to make sure that the family. What we're seeing is a correlation the past year.
If it's not a family member, then obviously the whole family becomes part of the process, correct?
Yes. So sometimes the kids will come in, they're foster care children.
Right.
Or they're in a safety plan, or, maybe, they were adopted prior. Mm-hmm. So just every case is different.
Every one of them.
Every single one. They might be here for the same allegations, which is sexual abuse, but the sexual abuse is never the same.
Oh, man.
It's never the same.
Mm-hmm. And I just keep, when you keep talking about this, I'm thinking young 5, 6, 7-year-old children, and it's probably the high majority of it.
Yes. So we service any children from age 3 all the way up to the day before they turn 18. And we can also service our vulnerable adults. So if we have an adult that's maybe 40 years old, but they have a medical documentation that they're like on a 13-year-old level, we can service them too.
Right. So, again, the disenfranchised, children, mentally handicapped.
Yes.
Some of that stuff. And unfortunately, folks, this does happen.
It does.
Thankfully, it's not something that we have to deal with every day in our personal lives, but it's going on every day. That's how this show is so important to me, because I've been trying to do it ever since I started, but I couldn't find the right people. And then finally somebody's like, I found y'all. And I'm like, ooh, I got to get her. Yeah. And by the way, I want to say something real quick. I want to give you big creds because you just recently won a huge award in our county as the nonprofit leader of the year in DeSoto County. Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You were up
against
you to
everybody that voted.
Yeah, but because I'm telling you were against some stiff competition, man. Jenna Kern.
Yes.
From the Dream Center.
And Annabelle
from the Palmer Home.
Yes.
Man, look, these are all amazing organizations.
They really are.
But so congratulations,
Thank you.
And look, I think just being nominated would be like, hey, you're doing amazing.
Honor,
because I know how much work's involved in that because I do it myself all the time.
Yes.
So I never think anybody's watching. And I bet you're all the same way, right? Like you're like, I don't know if they really know the work we're doing here.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, when I'm doing it, I don't even think about who's worried about what I'm doing. I'm just doing it because I got to do it. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. And I'm sure y'all do the same thing.
Yes.
And I know Jenna does. I don't know Annabelle, but I hope to meet her soon. However, I do know Jenna, and I know she's an amazingly hardworking. There ain't no way that woman's getting the proper rest. I know
agree.
that. So,
I agree.
Yeah. Because they just got too much going on. Again, I want to give them a shout out because, and I say this all the time, I have no affiliation with them. And I plan on it in the future, helping them. Yeah. However, one of the most amazing organizations, nonprofits there is in our whole area, tri-state area, if you ask me, because they do so many things for people, from Title I, educational, tutoring, clothing, food, medical.
Yes, they have a lot of great resources within their organization.
Oh my goodness, man. And so many volunteers.
Yes.
And I mean, and I know Jenna's not doing it on her own, but she has to coordinate all this. And I understand it's just a lot of work. I know her church is big behind her, but she's still got to go, implement.
It is. You got to wear multiple hats as you're running the organization.
Unfortunately, I'm aware of this, but not anything compared to what y'all do. Yeah. My stuff is just trying to feed a few kids. I don't want to.
But that needs something.
Well, I guess it does. I know it is a lot, but to me, it's it's simple compared to what I mean. As far as my efforts go, is what I'm saying is I think the program's essential just as much as anybody else's, and they do something very similar as well. But just the magnitude of what they're doing. People don't realize it. I mean, I think they just realize this stuff just like they drive by it and like, oh, yeah, they're doing their thing. Man, there's a lot of work that goes behind all that.
Yes.
Just the organization portion of it's huge.
I agree.
So congratulations to all three of you, and especially you, ma'am.
Oh, thank
because obviously to win that, it's, that's huge.
I know.
And I know you got a big team behind you.
Yes.
And I know some of them you can mention their names and some of them you can't.
Yes.
So do you want to give a couple of them a shout out that you can that helps you out there with the promotional side of this? Because that's how I met you was through him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that would be Harvey Erningas.
Yes, sir.
He's actually was on our board. His last board meeting was this week.
Oh, man.
But he's still a big supporter of ours.
Yeah.
I've known him for numerous years. He used to just come in and volunteer to interpret for us. And then he got to be a board member, and I was very happy about that.
Amazing. Yeah, because he's out there like supporting fundraising. He's doing everything, you know, and I know y'all do a lot of good stuff with trying to raise awareness and funds as well. Because like I said, it's a nonprofit, so it needs money.
It does. It does.
Runs off a lot of volunteers as well, just so people know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. So especially at our fundraisers.
And nobody's getting rich working there, by the way.
No.
So, I want to make that clear.
No.
Not
at all.
Not at all. There's nobody taking the pie. The biggest pie. And so that's how I met you. I was actually in a sign shop one day, and I was like, who is that? And that lady told me, and she goes, you probably need to know him, Neil.
Yeah.
Yeah, signs and stuff in Hernando. I'll give him a little shout out. Melissa, all right. Yep. Her and her mother. And so I was like, would you mind giving me his number? And she goes, yeah, no problem. And so that's how I met him. Y'all were trying to do some kind of promotional thing. And
Lacing Up to Hope.
That's probably what it was. And so through him, I'm like, can you reach out to Misty? And I mean, because I didn't know the channels, and I know y'all have to protect yourselves a little bit, with the personal information anyway, because of what you do. But right away, and then you and I started talking, and it was like, I felt like I'd known you forever. And I unfortunately couldn't get to talk to you as much as I wanted to initially, but your work is so important. Getting back to that, like the absolute, I think if people really knew all the stories, they would just lay down and cry. I don't know how you do what you do, because y'all see the most unbelievable, vile, I don't even know how to, sickening stuff every day. It's
horrific.
And then you got to go home and sleep and be a mother and a wife and a sister and a whatever, you know what I mean? And so I'm sure you grab on your kids a little tighter, your grandkids a little tighter.
Yep.
I think everybody probably there, but you got to be special people to do what you do.
Yes.
I think
you got to be committed.
You got to be committed. CPS, the investigators at the Sheriff's Department, police departments, all these places that are involved in this type of work. I just kudos, man. I take my hat off to you, because I don't know. I mean, I just want to get in my car, take my weapon. That's kind of like what we do. Yeah. But y'all have to keep a cool head.
Yes.
You have to keep facts, know. And another thing, one of the biggest things that, I also remember is you have to take every accusation seriously, but, not to ruin someone's life because of false accusation, because that can happen too at times.
Yes.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit.
So, again, back to the interview, because that's where they're going to do it. They're going to screen for any kind of possible coaching. They're going to screen for if someone told the child what to say, what not to say in the interview, and just pretty much go from there. But I will say this, in the state of Mississippi, we are not a truth or lie state. Mm-hmm. So that means when the interviewer goes in to testify in a case and the defense attorney says, hey, was this the truth or lie? They're going to say, no, we're not a truth or lie state. That's in the law.
Right.
So what they're doing is they're just trying to gather as much of the child's story that they have to tell.
Okay.
As much details. It's up to law enforcement CPS at that point.
To file charges or carry on.
Well, let's just say, okay, I'm going to give you a prime example. Okay. Kid comes in, kid talks about the sexual abuse that happened to them. And the kid then discloses, it happened in a gray room and it had a blue comforter. And on the end table was an alarm clock that has red numbers. Okay. It is then law enforcement, they will love our law enforcement local and our surrounding counties and federal.
Okay. Because y'all work to more than just DeSoto County, by the way. Y'all work with the surrounding counties.
DeSoto, Tate, and Tunica.
Okay.
So they'll then go in and they're going to start taking pictures of that to corroborate the child's story. And then they're going to say, well, it happened at the Walmart parking lot and it was, October 16th and this was going on. They're going to go back and see if they can figure out, was there like maybe a fundraiser or something in the parking lot going on? Because the more you can collaborate with a child, the more that they're able to then take it to trial.
Sure. Details matter.
Yes. Yeah. Details. Because let me say, it is very rare for a child to come in and say, hey, last night somebody raped me.
Yeah, that's not.
There's a huge delay in disclosure.
Absolutely.
And everybody thinks, jurors or judges, everybody like, oh, I need medical evidence. Medical evidence. Only 2 to 3% of cases are going to have actual medical evidence.
Because there's delayed in their.
They're delayed disclosures. And if you don't catch what happened to them, especially when it comes to sexual abuse, within that 72-hour limit, you're not going to get the DNA evidence that you think you're going to get.
So then it becomes his word against his word or her word against whatever. And then it comes down to like whatever else you can get involved.
Text messages.
All the electronic tracking and stuff. So,
all that stuff.
Yeah, D.A. Barton said something about it's very difficult to prosecute a he said, she said case.
It is.
And regardless of what went on.
Yep.
Very hard to prosecute, even though you know they're guilty.
Yep. So you got to get the details
get all that
to be able to go and corroborate the story.
So you are there in the beginning to basically gather that
as much.
Through the interviews.
Yes, that's how it starts with us.
Right.
That's the very beginning.
Okay.
Then we have the MDT program, which is our MDT coordinators. They're the ones that are actually scheduling the interviews. They're the ones calling law enforcement and CPS, and they're asking law enforcement, hey, did you send it to CPS? CPS, did you send it to law enforcement? And then we meet with each of our teams every month to discuss every case.
Every case.
From that 30-day.
Okay.
What's going on? How's the family? Did they get in the medical? Did they get the therapy? Did you get your search warrant? Did you make an arrest? We follow the life of that case. We're the only agency that's going to follow that life of that case.
Because the rest of them got so much, like, they're not only having to worry about that, but they got to worry about
law enforcement works their cases. They package up very pretty.
Sure.
What do they do? Then they pass it to the DA, and they're not, they're really not touching that case. Now, they may have a relationship with the family. The family may call them and say, hey, I was just kind of wondering what the update is. But as far as like checking in on them all the time, that's not happening because they're moved on to the next case.
Right.
So our case is the family advocate that's assigned to that case is then responsible for all that follow-up care.
Constantly.
Yeah.
And
and depending on how much the family needs too. If it's a very needy, high-profile case, the family needs a lot, there's going to be more follow-up phone calls. If it is a case where a child is really, really has the best support ever, and they're in the mental health, they've already had the medical. Every time you call, the mom's like, hey, we're doing good. They're processing it. Those cases may not have as many phone calls, but they're going to have the minimum amount of phone calls. And our parents also know too, or whoever the caregiver is, that they can call at any time.
And get their
and they're going to get help. We're not going to turn them away.
Agent I shouldn't say that. Caseworker, I guess is the word y'all would use, right?
Advocate.
So agent, advocate, or whatever you want to call it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That somebody follows through. You don't even get that at the hospital.
No.
Yeah.
No. We have
they're supposed to, by the way. Yeah.
So we do have a mental health therapist too. And
good.
she is certified in trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, which is one of the highest therapies when it comes to children that have experienced some type of trauma. And so, and everything we do is no cost to the family at all.
Right.
Nothing. So
again, complete nonprofit.
Yes.
Again, doing as much as you can. And I guess you rely on, I guess you get a few grants.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We do have some federal grants. And so let me explain that. Our federal grant is coming through the VOCA Crime Act. That is when somebody is charged with a federal crime, and then they have to pay a restitution money. So it's not taxpayers' money. It's actually that restitution money. It sits at the Department of Justice, and then every calendar year they divvy it out to the states.
Right.
And then the state
allocates it out to the agencies.
Yep,
Gotcha.
allocates, and we do a grant.
Nice.
Now, I will say we are blessed.
Okay.
The state of Mississippi is blessed.
Good.
We had what we call a big hit in 2021, where federal funds were cut in half. And then the year after, half again. And then the year after, half again.
It's happening again right now, by the way.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. That's okay. We're going to get through it. Well, our representatives, and I'm going to give a shout out to Trey Lamar. Okay. He really got a group of people together, and he said, you know what, we got to help our CACs.
Right.
They're not going to be able to service all these children, and they're not just there to give therapy. They're actually assisting law enforcement and CPS with their investigation. And remember, we're neutral. Yeah. So when they get on stand, they say, "Oh, isn't it true you work for law enforcement?" No,
absolutely
we're
not.
a neutral party.
No, yeah.
I'm here to get the child's statement and get as many details as possible.
Facts.
Yep.
That's what we're here. We're not trying to. I mean, obviously, we want to get the information to prosecute them, but we want to make sure everything's exactly right.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're an advocate for the child. Period. You're not an advocate for law enforcement. Or any of that.
No, we appreciate our law enforcement. We appreciate our CPS. Yes, we work together as a team. If we don't have them, then any CAC will crumble. You have to have your MDT buy-in, which is law enforcement, child protective services, medical therapy, stuff like that.
I would just go out on a limb and say there's nobody willing not to work with CAC.
Nope. Every
agency wants to be a part of what y'all are doing because it's about the children.
Yes.
Again, we all know this, but there's a couple of teachers in DeSoto County apparently didn't think that. So, let's don't advocate for the child, let's advocate for the abuser. So if you guys don't understand it and you hear this is why people are ticked off at you. Yeah. So off of that story, let me get off of that a little bit now because that's been the crazy lately. Again, thank you for all the people who raised 9 kinds of hell on this to get the attention I think it did. So, but with your case, what y'all advocate for every day, I think people can get it. The abuse charges, one of the things I want to talk about, and we'll visit this a little bit just because of the Whiteside case, the ages of consent, the gaps in ages, what's legal, what's not legal, so people are clear.
Okay.
Just as we talk about that, now we, get off the idea of what you do, because we know what you do now.
Yep.
I will go back to where we can identify as we go the different types of abuse, and we'll talk about that as we go.
Okay.
But right now, to clarify this, because I'm no expert, folks, that's why I brought the expert in, and I've had a couple of non-experts in that are great people, but they're just like me. We're screaming at the top of our lungs to get something done, but we don't know the absolute laws.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate?
So, one, if you're in a position of authority, no matter what, you cannot be anybody under the age of 18. That is just law. It is black and white.
Right.
Position of authority would be anybody that is, pretty much working any public servant, any teacher, any social worker, law enforcement, lawyer, medical, nurse, anything like that.
Preacher.
Yeah, preachers, youth
preacher,
pastors, mentors
even,
boys and girls clubs, anything like that. You're in a position of authority. I mean, it's pretty
Boy
open.
Scouts,
yes.
Any of that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty much open in the state of Mississippi. And so you cannot have any type of relationship, sexual relationship with a child, anybody under the age of 18.
Period.
End of subject.
There's no absolute if they are or nothing. It's just a law.
Yep.
That
we are
illegal.
held accountable higher.
Yes,
I am higher. So that, me personally, I can't do it either.
Right.
And I take that responsibility that, I know that. I sign my ethics, my morals, my values. I have a license in the state of Mississippi, and I can't do those things. I wouldn't want to do them anyway.
Sure, but I mean,
in the end, you can't do them.
So when people were arguing about, well, it was consensual, it was not.
It doesn't matter.
She can't consent.
She can't consent.
But, period. And on top of that, now let's get on to the real story. Here's the other reason why she couldn't consent: the age gap.
Yes, there is an age gap.
Yes.
So you have to be, in order to consent, you have to be age 16. But then when you consent, it has to be 36 months.
Gap between the
16-year-old and whoever the...
Or 17 and 20 or 18
and 19.
Well, I guess. Yeah, right. Yeah. So anyway, on and on and on. But also you got to be 16. Now there are some rules about 14 and 15-year-olds. Obviously, we're in the great state of Mississippi where you can get married at 14 with parental signature, which still blows my mind. I found out that little thing the other day, and I'm like, okay, introduce me to those folks when we find them. I got some folks want to talk to them. Like, who signs off on that for their child, man? Like, what is going on? Why is that still on our books?
You should look at California's.
Is it worse?
The age of consent to have sexual intercourse is lower than what ours is. So
wow, man. What? I don't get this, man. Like, so anyway, look. So getting back to the 14, parental consent, you can marry. Now, is there an age limit between the age of 14 and 7? Is it 3 years or 2 years for like when they sign off, or?
I have not seen that. I'm going to be honest. We have not seen a 14-year-old married.
Fantastic. That's good news. That's good news.
It is good news. Now, we hear about it. Don't get me wrong, but it's usually in other states. It's not here.
Well, not in our 3-county area anyway. So I bet if you get a little deeper
now,
in
we've heard
Mississippi,
of a 15-year-old marrying a 15-year-old, yes, but not like a 14-year-old marrying an 18-year-old.
Okay, good. But they do date. I mean, that does happen.
They do.
Does.
Things happen.
Things happen. And then some 14-year-olds are more mature than others. You know, they could be as mature as the 18-year-old at that point in time or whatever. But by the law is what we're trying to get at right here.
Yes.
So I want to try to, get the clarity of that, because all of us are confused about what's legal, what's not. So if you have a son or a daughter who is dating someone that is, younger than them or whatever, just know the laws.
Yes.
What's going to keep them safe, especially if they're in a position of power and authority.
Yes.
Yeah. Influence, if you will.
Yep. Because it's very easy, a child's brain, and let me say this, whether they're 3 or 17, their brain is not fully developed.
Correct. Until like way in your 20s.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I keep telling my 24-year-old son, I said, you ain't even developed fully yet.
Nope,
you don't like that because he's way smarter than me.
Not at all.
But it's always growth, right? Yep. So I'm still trying to get to my maturest level. I'm still,
I think we all are.
Yeah. However, but to clarify these gaps was really important for me, because I think it's 14. There can be 24 months, right? Like,
yes.
So dating to sexual activity, not dating, but just sexually active.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So clarify that. 14 to 16 is the 24th month. And then when it gets to 15, there's another rule of thumb, correct? Or is it still the 24 month?
Don't quote me on this, but I want to say it's still the 24 month. I think the age of 16, it has to be that 36.
Okay, that's when it steps up. Okay, gotcha. So therefore, you can't have 18 and 14-year-olds, legally. I mean, I guess it happens a lot, but there again, the parents probably make a decision whether or not to report it or whatever, I guess it depends up to the parent at that point in time. Again, not in a position of authority though. We just had the case to where the 19-year-old male who was dating the 14-year-old, but he was a coach. And I think they put him away for 7 years or something like that.
Yes.
That's why, folks. It's because he just can't do it.
Yep.
So it's bad. And his parents, I think, or her parents did not want to prosecute him, I believe. Yeah, that's what this.
And we do have that sometimes that parents are like, oh, we don't want to prosecute, but the state can step in and say no.
Yeah, it's wrong.
We can prosecute. Yeah. We don't need your permission.
Exactly, because it's breaking the law.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if in this case with the white side, if the parents are like, well, we actually do want leniency, like we understand that she was compliant in this and we don't want to put her in prison, but we want to stop it and we want to send a message. It don't matter what you want at that point in time. She broke the law. The state, and that's the job as a district attorney, to file on the behalf of the state and the people.
Yes.
And so he absolutely was right in what he did. He went after her for the right amount. And, unfortunately, we got what we got. But that's the difference between consensual and for the people who think that, well, she was consensual. No, she wasn't. She couldn't be. There's no way. You know what I mean? Just no way.
You take age out completely. It doesn't matter.
And even if she hadn't been her youth pastor, it still would have been against the law.
Yes.
Because of the age gap.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's predatory. As simple as that. That's how you can just say it. So she was wrong in multiple ways is what I'm getting at. So again, thank you for clarifying that. That's one of the things I wanted to get out the books. And then also let's talk about the different types of abuse that a child can go through that maybe y'all have to deal with. Like, I know we know about the sex and the physical and all that stuff, the sexual abuse. But so talk about some of the other things that people may not realize is abuse.
We have the neglect piece. So, there is a fine line between neglect and poverty.
Sure.
So when it's a neglect, it's when the parent or whoever the caregiver is purposely withholding something that they have to have or that they need to be able to function in life, or, food. For instance, there was a case in 2013, and this one is a public case. The child was being locked up and restrained for several days, and he was not given food, and he hadn't eaten in days, and he ended up, they were beating him too, and he ended up dying, and both the parents were charged. And our closet is actually named after him, which his name is Tyler. We did get permission from the extended family, can we honor him in our CAC? So we do have a clothing closet in our CAC for the children that come and see us. We want them to be able to go and get, the clothes that they need or hygiene products, whatever they need. But the point is that, for several months, this boy was tied up. He was tortured.
What was his age?
He was 12. So, and he had not been in school in several years. So then you have that neglect piece. Again, we can go back and forth. There's homeschool, there's private school, there's public school. This case in particular is all the children were in school but him.
Right.
And then when you asked about the homeschool curriculum, you were handed kindergarten stuff. That wasn't, that's not appropriate for a 12, 13-year-old child. And so he died, and the stepmom got life in prison without parole. And then the father got 40 years, has to serve day for day. So that is a neglect piece. And we do see that. We do see that kids are being locked in rooms for days at a time. They withhold food as punishment. I get it. Your kids are upset. You guys get an argument. You're like, go to bed. You can't have dinner. That's one thing. But when you purposely withhold that food piece from them where they haven't eaten in days and they're hungry, that's neglect.
Because he died from malnutrition.
Yeah.
He
actually died due to head trauma from abuse. But that was, if there was a case that had every type of abuse besides sexual, that is that case. So that would be neglect, all of it.
Oh my God, Misty.
Yeah. And those are the type of cases we deal with. And I've dealt with those cases throughout my whole 19 years.
If I'm not mistaken, this was in DeSoto County.
Yes. Everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
It was in Horn Lake.
That at that time, I'll tell you, I was so outraged at that.
Yes.
But it was too late. You know what I mean? It was too late at that point. Like, you can't... Yeah. Like, if he'd have lived and we could have helped him, but it was too late. Yeah. That was what's so sad about this. And I'm sorry if I get... I'm not an emotional person.
Trust me, I understand that case is actually one of the ones that's near and dear to my heart.
Oh, man. Like, wow. And I do remember that. And I'm sorry that when you started talking about that, I'm like, I know that's that case. And so I want to remind people that did happen in our community. Yeah. And then you start asking yourself, why? Like, how could anyone treat a child like that? What is in their mind? To what did that kid possibly could have done? You know what I mean?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
He didn't do anything.
So it goes back to mental health for the parents.
Yeah.
It starts there. You're not right. If you're doing that kind of stuff, even
Something's
just,
not right.
You're absolutely jacked up. And both of you together become even more jacked up. And then we talk about that's where it gets into it's domestic violence. It's everything. It's all the things.
A lot of them get tied together like that.
Yeah. Maybe one was influenced by the other because the fear factor in place, like the parent, you know what I mean? Like if they didn't behave, I don't know that to be the case in this, but you might, maybe if he didn't do what she said, then he was punished or she was or whatever, It was control. One of them probably had control. It's probably one of them did a heavier sentence than the other, I'm guessing. So both of them should be, to me, and I think you and I we've talked about this, and you can wink or whatever you can do to agree, but I'm all for a pedophile island. All right. State of Mississippi, Governor Tate Reeves, this is where we need to get on board right now. We just need to start finding the funding. If you need to get a penny of my dollars anytime, just let me know, and let's build a pedophile. Just turn them loose, let them just hang out with each other all day long. We'll give them just enough food, just in enough time, whatever we're gonna do. Well, I'm just telling you, man. I don't think there's no coming back from it. There's no rehabilitating it. I don't think there's any way possible to deal with these folks. But I know they don't need to be walking among us in society. Well,
no. Here's the thing: if you look at the research too, and I'm talking about the cases where it's there's a big age gap, and they're purposely going and grooming a child. To be able to receive, get sex with a child. So Florida years ago did this where they gave sexual offenders medicine where they could not perform. Okay,
castration. It's like
medicine. Yeah. It's medicine that
it's like a what they call it, chemical castration.
Yes.
I think it's called.
Yes. Yeah. And what they found through their research was they still hurt kids.
Well, they can touch them.
They found another way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So
there's no you can treat alcoholism, you can treat drug addiction, you can help a domestic violence victim. There's so much stuff you can treat with the proper stuff, but there's nothing that can treat a sexual perpetrator. There's nothing. All they can do is when they're done serving their time, if they're truly attracted to children, okay, they're going to serve their time. They can be given mental health therapy. But it's not to treat it and learn not to do it. They're still going to have those urges. What they're learning is how to control their coping and learn different coping skills and triggers. That way they're not going to go do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Man. And I just don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible for them not to do it. I think that they will hide. And here's where we get, to my opinion now, you don't have to say on this. This is just personally my opinion from now we're looking in. Is this how you get your children that go missing and they become... They kill them because the way that they got caught was they got told on. And then they go to prison and then they get out and they're like, well, I'm not going back to prison, so I'm just going to get rid of the evidence. And that's how you get these child killers. To me, it's like... We have
a lot of children missing.
We do. And I feel like that. Yeah, absolutely. And so I feel like that is probably that's why I advocate, if there is, let's advocate for just when you got them dead to rights, they've done this heinous crime, everybody's aware of it, they're guilty to 100% of everybody's opinion. We got a place where we put them, and I'm not going to say death because that's not for me to choose, but I definitely don't think they need to be walking among us. You know what I mean?
I don't think they should they don't, when you're, and some people are like, I was 19 years old, I got a 16-year-old pregnant. Okay. That's not what I'm talking about.
We're talking about prepubescent child abuse.
I'm talking about grooming.
The most,
grooming someone for, it's completely different.
It's different. Yeah.
And, don't get me wrong, sexual abuse is sexual abuse, but this is different. This is a higher level of intention of purposely trying to have intercourse or molest a child, especially, with our little ones. Even if they, are age 15 or 16. Am I using the right
terminology with that, the prepubescent stuff?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Because, just folks, that's just like less than 13, you're talking about from 1 to, because as a matter of fact, there are people, I've seen that to where attracted to babies, newborns. It's sickening. It is very sickening. Oh my gosh, man. I don't even want to talk about that much because that really makes me just want to go into another zone. But, I don't know if you've ever watched my show. I've talked about this a couple of times. I watched a documentary about Pedophile Island in Washington. Okay. They have one. They still have one, if I believe I'm not mistaken. They started it back in the 90s. And once you get out of prison, because the state didn't have enough laws to keep them in there for life and things of that nature, they would go for an indefinite mental evaluation on this island that they never leave. It's called indefinite mental evaluation. Somehow they were getting away from it. They go out 60 Minutes or HBO, whoever's doing this thing, and they ask them, they're like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to be here, but if they let me go, the first thing I'm going to go do is find me a victim. That's what's on my mind, you know? So when I watch that show, I'm like, there's no hope for them. Like, and the ones who do realize it, I mean, they want out, you know what I mean? But they know that that's the first thing they're going to have done. So, man, I know it sounds inhumane, but the inhumane part is what they're doing to our children, the innocent ones.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So there's no excuse. I don't care what you do with them, really. Like, I got an opinion of what we do with them, but it's not good for, you know, it could be not for air for us to be talking about. Yeah. So, but, you know, those type of perpetrators, for sure. You know, it's a different thing. You know, there's a different level to this thing. You know, and I know that's part of y'all's job is to find out where the levels are.
Yes.
You know, and then law enforcement and the DA's office figures out to what extent, you know, this should be. So, you know, the outrage, I'm sure almost everybody that watches this show can agree with us on the outrage of the levels. Yes. You know, a baby, you know what I mean? All that stuff, you know. So I get all that. But so obviously sexual. There's the physical neglect. Yes. There's the physical, actual, you know, abuse. Yes. And this young boy, that was this big case here locally. I didn't realize it had been that long, to be honest with you. It has been 12 years, hasn't it? Yep. It's been a decade or better. I always wondered because it got, you know, another thing here, it's not that they're trying to put it under the rug, guys. It's just we don't have a media outlet in our county. So now that you're starting to hear about more things is because of social media. You know, the mama bears, I like to call them, they get out there and they're pretty enraged, you know, and rightfully so, you know, and we're not experts, but we have a voice and some people are listening. And so we can get some awareness out there, you know, and I know that sometimes y'all depend on us a little bit too, to get the outrage out there because you can't do it, you know, nor can the law enforcement until they have facts because there's liabilities in that stuff. And, but however, what I was trying to get at is like, we're now seeing it because there are more people out there. So there's more,
internet's easier. Yep, it's more direct.
Yeah. So now we're picking up on it. I think like in the last couple of days, there's been a couple of more. One of them was a former police officer in Olive Branch or teacher. So it's like everybody's like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with DeSoto County?" The same thing that's been wrong. Yep. It's just now you're hearing about it more. Yes. And it's not that they were hiding it from you. It's just.
It's more awareness at this point.
It's more awareness is all it is. Yeah. Our sheriff department, our police department, the advocacy groups always say this. They're doing an amazing job at trying to catch these evil people and prosecute them to the full extent of the law. It's just, it takes time. They're doing it as quickly as they can because they don't want the child endangered. But at the same time, you can't do it falsely. You got to make sure you're to the rights about it. But it's just, they're better at catching them too. You know, with the electronic footprint stuff, there's even new technologies not out there.
ICAC. We have ICAC. You know, each law enforcement agency has ICAC, and that's what they do in crimes against children on the internet. So it'd be like child pornography. Sure. You know, then there's this new trying to meet up with a child.
And they're always, those guys are always, by the way, correct me if I'm wrong. Again, not an expert. It's just things I read and see. This new AI, child pornography, which is not an actual act, but they're using the face of a child to create this.
To create child pornography. They're producing it.
It's like, there's not really a victim, technically, but it's still the intent of what they're trying to push on the public, you know, or not the public, but the people seeking it.
Well, think of it like this. Okay, so it's technically there was no physical victim as far as, you know, their body being physically hurt. But it's their picture that is out there on the internet that it's not going to go away.
No. By the way, and just so you know this, I seen this just yesterday. I was watching this episode of the Sean Ryan show. If anybody follows that, you might know what I'm talking about. There was this guy, he's a super hacker. Yeah. But he does it for good things. Yeah. Like he actually does, but he's created this new technology to where he can take a picture of you. Like today, me and you be sitting here, and he can bring up any photograph ever in our lives that's ever been put on the internet, dark web. Yep. So, but he's using that in combination with the FBI to find these pictures, and then they can go back and, because there's no evidence sometimes in these cases. Yep. And so if it's on the dark web, which folks, I don't even understand that. Like, I don't know how you get there, but that's where the pedophiles and predators go.
That's where they go.
Yeah. And that's where the content apparently is put. And so within like 10 seconds, he'd brought every image that guy had ever had in his life on the internet.
Wow.
And he was blown away. he said, this, and I've only got this, but I'm getting ready to share it with the world because, well, the agencies anyways, because they will be able to go back and find the evidence immediately on these dark web sites and stuff.
That's good.
And I can't remember his name, but I thought, man, how cool is that? That's going to make them, they got to run harder. They can't, now they're going to be thinking before they act and thinking that I can't do this. I can't, any of that stuff, maybe it'll, maybe keep them from doing some of the things they do, knowing that there's some better equipped activities. Think
about this too. Every time law enforcement, you kind of in a way, we feel like we get caught up because we figured out the new things that they're doing. And the next thing you know, there's another new thing.
Oh, man.
And so then we got to learn about that.
Like the AI. Like, who would thought AI that'd be the first thing we figure out how are we going to defeat this? You can't even stop them because I don't even know the laws. They hadn't even wrote laws for that yet, have they?
Well, we do have laws.
Do you now?
Okay. It's still considered producing child pornography.
Okay.
It is.
Good.
So you're just using a child's face, but you're producing child pornography. You can't produce child pornography, whether it's fake or real. You can't.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's illegal.
It's illegal. Yeah. There are children. They're in our community. That whether or not my children or not, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're ours.
Yeah.
They're going to grow up. They're going to most children stay in the area they're raised in or within their county or within their state at least. If we don't come together and start protecting them, we don't come together and start advocating for them, how do you want them to be successful community members?
Absolutely.
If you want them to be successful, you don't want them to grow up in, on drugs or stealing things or whatever. You got to stand up as a community and say, hey, you know what? No more.
Absolutely.
No more.
We can't do it, and we gotta make the penalties stronger. We gotta make the being proactive instead of reactive. And I know that all the agencies want to do that, right? So, so that's one of the things I want to talk about today. All of our LEOs and our child advocacy groups and our CPS and all that stuff are doing their absolute best to try to catch these perpetrators. So it goes back to us sometimes in society as if you see something, you need to say something.
You need to say something.
So, and so can you tell us some of the things that people need to look out for, like signs of abuse, like that maybe you can advise some of the listeners about that, like, little things that maybe we're not aware of, like behaviors, things of that nature.
Yes. Okay. So let's say we have, let's just do a teenager. Okay. We have a teenage girl and she's on the cheer team. She's very outgoing, she's never been any behavioral issues. And then all of a sudden what the parents or, the coach or whoever, the teachers are starting to see is she's starting to become just a little bit withdrawn. And she's staying on that phone a little bit more than what she's supposed to be doing. And you walk in and maybe she's crying in the bathroom, but she don't want to tell you. And, if someone touches her, she's like, don't touch me, And it's just a difference in the behavior, okay? The behavior.
Sure.
That's when a mom, dad, or whoever's taking care of that child needs to sit down and say, hey, I need you to talk to me. Mm-hmm. You're not in trouble. What's going on? And if you can't, then it's time to take this thing right here. Right here.
Yeah.
And it's time to look through it.
Right.
And I think parents forget that. Yeah. I get it. Your kids need to contact you. I got kids. I want them to contact me.
And I want them to have their privacy to a point.
Yes. But you got to protect them, too.
Yeah, you got to protect them. You got to know it's for their best interest.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at Roblox. They have a thing where little kids can go in there and play a game where they're giving their soul to the devil.
Oh, wow.
And where there's also a game that was created on there where they are actually sexually abusing another person in that room.
What?
This is Roblox.
Oh, my gosh, man.
Yes.
Really?
And the kids are playing this, yes. Parents need to know. They need to know what their kids are into. They need to look at things like, oh, well, they can delete things. Well, there's all kinds of stuff you can do as a parent. There's safeteen.com. Put your child's phone on it. It costs maybe $20 a month. Anything they delete, anything they download, you'll be able to see it. I'm not saying go in there, track everything they do.
Sure.
I'm saying just have a backup plan because that's, I did this. Have a backup plan. I even showed it to my girls when they began. I said, look, I want you to know.
Right.
I'm not looking at this ever. But if there's a reason I need to, I'm going to because your safety is my priority.
Yeah, trust no one. That's kind of where it comes down to. Like at this point, because of all, because I'll be honest with you, my kids grew up. I know Roblox. I know this name, but I'm just thinking it's like this simple little innocent game that my kids.
No, anybody can go in there and make any kind of game.
Wow, see, I didn't know that. So
you have people that they're predators. I'm just being honest.
God,
they get off on these things. So they go in there and they make the games.
Yeah, unbelievable. See, that's what I'm saying, folks. It's just that's why I had the expert on the day because I don't know this stuff. So, what about? I mean, obviously that's a good sign with a teenager or something. But what about as we get a little bit younger? The signs that we need to be looking at for the really young. So
you'll see a little bit more probably physical signs with the younger ones. If they are able to, they're potty trained. Let's just say that they're potty trained. Sure. But all of a sudden they're starting to pee in their bed at nighttime and they have it. And I'm not saying like a one-time incident. I'm like, it's starting to, once a week. Okay, we're getting a little concerned.
And they weren't doing it, but they've started all of a sudden doing it, right? Because I was I was a bedwetter from the get-go.
And that's different. Different. That is different.
Oh, my Jesus. I cannot believe I just said that on public TV.
It happens. It happens.
Listen,
you know what? Boys are harder with wet in the bed than girls
are. I don't even know what caused it. My grandmother was absolute, just like, you're drinking too much sweet tea before you go to bed. It probably could have been that technically. Because I just wouldn't give it up. Yeah, it probably was. Yeah, but I'm talking, I was doing this till like I was like 27. No, I'm just joking. It was actually like maybe 10 or 11 years old.
So let's take a 6-year-old, okay? Yeah. Let's say the 6-year-old has not wet in the bed since they were 4.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's say they have an accident. Well, you're like, okay,
one time it can happen. Yeah.
But then it starts to become more and more and more. Or maybe the 6-year-old saying, hey, you know what, my butt hurts.
Yeah.
And maybe your 6-year-old, you're thinking in your head, oh, well, they have issues sometimes going to the bathroom. Sure. But it's okay to ask, hey, have you gone to the bathroom lately?
Yeah. Just ask the right questions. Yeah.
Have you gone to the bathroom lately? And also what you'll see with 6-year-olds too is they're going to start having anger outbursts.
Mm-hmm.
Never really, they had some, but this is extreme anger outburst. Kids don't know how to tell you that someone violated their body when it comes to sexual abuse. We have disclosures easier on physical abuse, neglect, drug endangerment, witness to a crime versus sexual abuse. They do not know how to convey that, hey, this person that I love, this person I trusted, they did this to my body. They feel, 1, ashamed, 2, it was traumatizing, 3, they don't know, either they're too young, they don't know, or they're older and they do know, and they're like, ooh, I guess this is the way it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Or if I say anything, then everybody's going to label me as someone that's attracted to older people, or they're going to say I'm lesbian, or they're going to say I'm a homosexual. Not only that, do you know what our number 1 recantation reason is? Take a guess. Just take a guess. Why kids recant? They'll say they came to the CAC and they said, hey, you know what? I don't know, teacher's doing this to me or whoever.
Embarrassed. I mean, just being embarrassed. What do you think it is?
No, it's their support system.
Somebody behind them.
It is their family. It is their community and their churches and their schools. And when you don't give them that support they need, real quickly they're going to recant and they're going to say, I lied.
Yeah.
But then let's look at the research when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Only 3 to 4% are actual lies. Those kids that all recanted, 96%. To 97%, it was actual truth the first time they told it.
They didn't want to lose their whole
They didn't want to lose their family.
Or whatever.
That's all they know. That is all they know.
So it goes back to, even as adults, I think sometimes people get into that stuff, we're just talking about this, some of this stuff, this church support for this person here lately, and so that's good info right there, Misty.
Yeah. And so, just like, if you suspect something, I can tell you, if I suspect that one of my staff may have done something to a child, my first phone call is going to be law enforcement. Immediate. Yeah. I'm not doing anything else. I'm doing that immediately. Granted, I need to know as the leader of our organization, I need to know what to do with that employee. Mm-hmm. But my immediate phone call is going to be law enforcement. And then I'm going to look at law enforcement and be like, I'm going to need you to keep me updated because right now they're going to be, probably suspension without pay. If you find something, let me know because then I have to make a decision on can they come back? Can they not come back? There's 1,000 things you can do, but your immediate phone call needs to be law enforcement.
Always. No matter what, church, your job, it can be a local business. You got some employees, a lot of times with our fast food places, we got, younger employees with older adults and things of that nature. So that can happen, a lot. Matter of fact,
no one's saying that the employee or the business owner can't, do what they need to do for their as part of what they would call an investigation on the employee. No one's saying that. What we're saying is call law enforcement first and work with them. Do not work against them.
Sure.
Because you're doing 2 things. One, if you're letting the alleged perpetrator know, that gives them a heads up to get their story right.
Yeah, they control the narrative.
Yes.
That's what happened in this case we've been talking about. So they got some big people behind them and there's a reason and they were able to spin it.
Yes. And then what you're doing is if the child was questioned by y'all before that, and I don't care if it's an adult, you're traumatizing them.
Yeah.
They should only have to tell their story one time. Every time that a person repeats what happened to them when it comes to sexual abuse, it throws them completely back. And then other people are picking up the pieces. The best way I can describe it is if you look at a filing cabinet, you have that filing cabinet. It's so organized. It's A through Z. It's pretty. It's different colors. Mm-hmm. when they're re-traumatized and when their trauma kicks in, take all those filing cabinets, you just throw them everywhere. Everything falls out. They can't pick them up. That's that's their brain.
Right.
That's what's going on in their brain right then. Okay. So they need help to be able to get that. That's where the trauma therapist is going to come in and they'll say, okay, let's get this back together. Let's reorganize
refile it.
Yes.
Walk it back.
Yes.
All
And
that
so they're being triggered yet again. And so they're reliving that moment yet again. So how many times do victims have to relive it?
I don't know what the number is, but I imagine that's what the struggle is. It's like, having to retell the story, and they have to, you have to tell it multiple times when it happens, so that's a struggle. So the bravery of all these young individuals that can come forward and tell their story and want to help with the prosecution or getting this evil person, justice for the, for the victim, of course, but, that's bravery. That's a strong individual. I don't care how old they are.
They're a hero.
Really are.
They're a hero because as much as, let's say, they tell the story with us and then they go to court and they have to tell the story again because of, their age and it's time, there's a law that the accuser gets to face the one that's accusing them, the rights.
That's tough with the children. To me, that case.
But there are certain ages that children can't do it, and when it comes to sexual abuse, that someone else can come in like the interviewer.
Sure.
But if it's
what
physical
age
abuse,
is that? What is it? With
it's
the
usually
stuff?
under the tender years. So tender years is age 12.
Okay.
So anybody that's under age 12, and it only pertains though to sexual abuse. That's it.
Okay. Well, we had a case. I've said this a couple times on the show. We had a case in my part of the world where it was a guy, and I think there was 20 perpetrators, one perpetrator, 20 victims. And the particular DA at that time offered a plea deal to where, he didn't want to have to put the kids through I think they were all above 12 probably, right in that range. And no, I don't think so. He's out. He had 7 years and he was out. He pled out because he said he didn't want to have to put them through it. Well, that to me was a cop out. That was just for him not to be in prison forever.
I guess my question too would be, because I've seen that. I granted, because I worked at CPS, I took kids in custody.
Not this DA, by the way.
No.
A different DA.
No, just in general, I've seen it.
Yeah.
And being in circuit court testifying. As a CPS worker, I was there, the supervisor over the foster care case there in foster care. And there was one particular case that I did have to go to the ADA or the DA and say, you can't put them on the stand.
Right.
You can't.
Right.
Mentally, they can't handle it.
I imagine a lot of them can't handle it.
And so, they did have to kind of work a deal into it because I was like, no, I'm not doing it. We are the custodian of the child at that time, the state is, and we're not going to re-traumatize the child. Some of our children are very brave and they can do it. And the ones that can't, they're still very brave. It's just they can't do it. It's okay. There's nothing wrong. It's just
and it's hard to prosecute that. You get the maximum time. It comes down to making deals just so that you can get some kind of penalty on them,
And so that's what sometimes the DAs, they do that. They do make deals. I'm not 100% saying all the deals are this way, but consider that sometimes they do in the best interest of the victim. Yeah,
absolutely. And I get that. But I think, in that particular case, they had all the evidence. They could have nailed him.
When you're saying 20 victims, that's a lot of victims.
It was a lot of folks come forward, a lot of young ones that came forward.
It reminds me of, you ever seen Dr. Anna Salter?
No.
Okay, so she's this doctor that specialized in getting to know sexual perpetrators. And she wanted to know how their brain worked. And she wanted to know how did they find their victims. And it's the most interesting training I've ever been through in a week.
Wow.
And a lot of her videos are on YouTube too. So she went into the prisons and she interviewed them for, months at a time and trying to figure it out. You know what they said the number one place they can go get their victims at?
Where?
Just take a guess.
Church. Yeah,
Church.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you don't have to be. You have to have education to do that. Yeah.
Well, no. So they said it's so easy to go in and be like, "I'm saved." Mm-hmm. Everybody trusts you,
even after you've offended and got out, and they want to love you. I mean, they do.
Yeah, they
most
do.
churches do.
Yeah, they do. So there was this one offender. He had offended hundreds of boys.
Wow, man.
Thousands of them.
Right.
All in within churches because he'd go in and they'd be like, "Hey."
Yeah.
He's a good member now,
Yeah, like he's changed. Yeah. He loves the kids. Oh my God.
So we, as parents, churches or, whatever youth serving organization you have to be very mindful of that. You really got to have policies in place to protect the kids. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about, a background check, a citizenry registry check. How often are you doing them? Mm-hmm. Is there always 2 adults with every child? Mm-hmm. And maybe you're not big enough church. Well, then
You just don't do it?
Maybe they don't go on the trip then because you don't have enough adults to supervise them.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's the truth. And I think that the one that recently happened up, we got the guy the other day that they got that was filming maybe his own family members, I think they were talking about over here at Olive Branch. Oh. And he was a former teacher in DeSoto County, and he was also a teacher up in Memphis. But I think the way that they caught him was because they scrub the internet every day. Oh, that's a bad word, scrub. They run their teachers every day to make sure that they haven't gotten arrested or have some, and that's how they found out. That's
I believe it. In Memphis, it was a private.
I think it was a private school. So so I think they just had the resources to say, hey, every day you run their names through the Google
to make sure,
because there probably wasn't a lot of teachers there, so they could run through and just make sure they weren't arrested last night for DUI, probably something like that. That's a good idea. Yeah. Now I know it'd be hard.
It is hard. It's even hard for him. I do it often, but it's never like every day.
Yeah. I think they were running, from what it sounded like, they were running it daily to kind of, or every other day or something.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it is probably a small school though, I'm sure, so they probably, if they had less than 20 people, they could probably run it to somebody. That's your job every morning. Make sure nobody got in trouble last night, or the day before. And that's probably helped them a lot, to get them out. Because you don't want them to have an opportunity to come back and spin a narrative or do something dangerous within the school again, So get them out immediately, address it, get the cops involved, all that stuff. So we've covered anything else like you're thinking that like maybe like you want to talk about that maybe we need to educate the folks that's listening to this that maybe not know, like, because one of my big things is, I don't want to, even if it be domestic violence or child abuse or anything, I want to help. I mean, I think most people would, how do you get involved without getting yourself involved? Like when you see something, say something, but, do you confront the people?
Oh no, leave that to law enforcement.
That's what I'm talking about. So
leave that to law enforcement.
So tell people how to approach it. Yeah.
So here's the thing: you don't even have to see something. Our law is written suspect.
Yeah, suspect.
You suspect, then you need to make a report. But you cannot delegate that. So if I'm a teacher and I suspect, I can't go then ask my principal to make the report, or my principal says, "Oh, I'm going to do it." No, it's the teacher's responsibility to make the report. That's what the law says.
Gotcha.
You can't delegate it to somebody else. Because it's very important that whoever suspects that is able to put in there why they feel that something happened or what they witnessed. So you can make that report online through the Mississippi Department of Child Protective Services. I absolutely love it. Online's quick. You do it. You can even check a little box that says anonymous, and they don't even know, and they're protected.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You're protecting the state of Mississippi. Mandated reporters. Everybody in the state of Mississippi is a mandated reporter.
Even the neighbor.
So
that's what's good. That's what I was talking about. Like, so for the neighbor, the whatever, the yard guy that's cutting your grass and sees you over there beating your kid. I mean, that kind of thing. What is the website again?
That is at www.mdcps.ms.gov.
That's a long one. So
it is.
So folks, if you got to run it back 2 or 3 times, just go back and get it. But you can report anonymously, as she said, on the website.
Yes.
And
you can call it in anonymously too, but it just takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, you want to get involved, but you don't want to get too involved.
Yes.
You got to protect your family.
Yes.
Not everybody's strong and be like, I dare him to come over here because I'm going to treat him like he treated his kids. That's some people are like that. Not everybody's like that.
So that is when you see something like if I was to see my neighbor beat their child, I'm going to report it to CPS, and then CPS's job within so many hours to report it to law enforcement.
Right.
But if I'm like at Walmart and I see, I don't know, somebody trying to kidnap a child, I'm going to call law enforcement immediate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Immediate.
That's a 911 call.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if you see somebody beating on their kid in Walmart, past the point of a spanking, we that's another thing, the fine line between that. Talk about that. Okay, hold on, let me go back to this real quick and I'll go to that one. Also, CPS only does in-home. So it has to be somebody that lives in the home that's hurting the child. So if it's out of the home, like teacher or youth pastor or neighbor, then it has to be law enforcement. Okay,
so if you, when in doubt, call law enforcement. That's why I say just call law enforcement, because if it's not them, they're going to give it to CPS.
And by the way, if you're in doubt, it's no harm. Like if it's someone and they go in and say, well, everything's good here. Yep. We don't see anything.
I've done it numerous times as a CPS when I was a CPS worker, supervisor.
It's a little inconvenient for the family. I get that. And you don't want to be like, man, who told on us? Like, man, we're just trying to do the right. Okay, it's a little inconvenient, but guess what? It could have been not what it was. And they saved a child's life or something, So again, I know we don't want to. That's what I was trying to say. How do you get involved without getting yourself too deep into it,
So, and again, you were given the spanking the child. So in the state of Mississippi, you can physically discipline your child.
Sure.
You spank your child. Nobody's saying you can't spank your child. But that spanking needs to be from the lower of the back and down to like about mid-thigh. Around there. But you can't beat them so much that they can't sit down or they have bruises all over.
Right.
So you can't hit a child or strike a child in the head, in the face, open-handed or closed-handed over the age of 12.
By the way. Yeah. Common sense for most people. You know what I mean? Like, this is just parameters for idiots that don't understand where the law resides. I think most people know that hitting your child repeatedly in the head or anywhere on their body, that becomes abuse immediately.
Yes,
one strike is that way. It's not.
It is.
And repeatedly, even on the buttocks, as we call it back in the day, that's what my grandpa used to say. That's what it's for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we get it. Kids need discipline.
Yeah.
They do. I have kids. They need.
But
they
also,
need
I'll say something about that too. Like me, I'm a big guy, and so like
you got to know your strength.
Yeah, right. So that was a problem with my children. I probably needed to whoop them. You know what I mean? Like, if y'all are listening right now, you did not get enough. But I'm kidding in a sense. But I stopped with that, and I'll tell you why. I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
And just spanking the child with a hand, right? Just popping them on the bottom. I started worrying. Like, I don't want to hurt them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And here's
I get it.
And I didn't ever do it out of anger, but just like give them a little pop.
Yep.
So I had a different way of, and maybe I should have been a little more, I guess, firm with them, but I had a fear of that. So, I didn't do it anymore myself,
Yeah.
So, I let it kind of get back to the moms and the grandmas and things of that nature. I stayed out of that game because I realized that just me touching them, sometimes like just popping them, it could be way more than what my wife could put, on them. So I just dangerous in that standpoint. So
of discipline too.
Yeah.
Take away their cell phones,
Or even just a strong, good little talking to.
It don't always have to be a punishment. Just sit down, have a conversation.
And by the way, you have to sometimes yell at them to get their attention, but you don't just completely call them every name in the book in the process. That can be abuse as well.
That's what we would call emotional, psychological abuse.
That's where I was getting to.
Yes.
So another physical abuse. So
that would be like a prime example I give for that one is like a kid wakes up every day that they're yelling. Not the child yelling. The parents are yelling every day at the child. And it's not just about the yelling. It's also about, hey, stupid, get your,
Yes.
It's a constant. Putting the child down. Let me tell you, that is the hardest abuse.
It is.
In the United States to ever prove. CPS, law enforcement, it is the hard. You got to have so much documentation when it comes to psychological and emotional abuse.
It's very much.
This is hard.
Yeah.
Because you don't have proof of it. It's usually he said, she said.
Right.
So you got to have more like a therapist stepping in and saying, hey, I've been giving therapy for like 2 years and this is what, And
I'm not, and again, you're saying too, like there's going to be those days when it gets like that.
Yeah.
The instance like, oh my God, what were you thinking? Screaming.
That's not, no.
But just the day in and day out.
Of constantly putting them down.
Yes, absolutely. So
and yelling at them. It's like, that's all they know. They don't understand calm and they don't understand that, this is a hug.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Look, and we all have different personalities. Every child is a little bit different. You gotta parent differently with each child. So you have to just learn, take some good parenting skills, talk to your family members that that you trust, that say, hey, that guy was a pretty good dad. I remember watching him from a distance, ask his opinion, things of that nature. Ask your neighbor, this is where good mentoring programs are good for people to kind of help learn.
Yeah.
One of the things, and I'll name drop a little bit, like the Hope Center and places like that, Stacy Dodd and Chris Camp and, Kenneth McKinney, those guys do an amazing job at mentoring, and it's trying to teach people that don't have that aspect in their families to where they have a father and a mother in the family at the same time. Sometimes a grandma, like sometimes, they can become in a facet emotionally neglected. Just, that's another thing, but it's not abuse necessarily, but it's neglected to the point of where they need these organizations. So they step in,
Yeah, that's exactly who Stacy Dodd is. They do some great things with children.
Amazing. So that's what I'm saying. These mentor, there's lots of them. I can name a bunch of them, but that's just when it comes off that I'm close to from a standpoint. I know the guys, So they're kind of tied in our little network. But being a single mother or grandmother, sometimes it's tough.
It's hard.
But also don't cross the line of abuse.
Yep.
Like when you're frustrated, don't just beat them because they ain't listen,
Yeah.
But also they need to be disciplined.
They do.
You know what I mean? I'm not telling you don't discipline.
And I promise you, nobody's saying don't discipline them. Law enforcement's going to say you discipline.
But listen to what Misty said. There's a place where you can spank them. All right.
Yeah.
So it's right above the buttocks, down to about the mid thigh.
The top of the butt and down to
the butt to about lower the mid thigh.
Yeah.
Or no, anyway, listen, if you get out of those ranges, one time, as long as you don't try to keep just trying to kill them. But the point is like in society, there's a time and place.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, law enforcement, maybe the kid moved and there's a bruise here.
Things happen.
Things happen. Everybody sees that. That's not, they're worried about the kids that are actually, every day or once a week. They're beaten constantly.
If you're sitting here questioning right now, and I know you do, like there's probably people going like, oh my God, that time I hit little Jimmy, I just felt so bad. I went through that. That's why I stopped spanking my little kids, because I was in that mind. If you're questioning yourself for that, then you absolutely are doing the right thing, because if you're not questioning it, then you're like, well, he deserved it. You know what I mean? That's not how it works, you know? And then obviously, back in my area, I don't know how old you are, Misty, but in my time, King Hickory switches were a big deal.
That's a Southern thing. I never knew what a switch was
I had
until we
stripes
moved out
on my
here.
legs.
I've heard that. I'm like, what is a switch? And they're like, oh, that's when your grandparents or your parents make you go out to this tree and pull off this thing. I'm like, huh?
And you
so I was born in California.
Oh, yeah, man.
And I didn't move out here until I was 14. And by that time, I remember coming home one day from school. I said, Mom. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, they paddle kids at the school.
Without your permission. Yes.
I'm like, what is this?
And
my mom's like, uh-huh. And she's like, she was born and raised here in Mississippi. And she's like, yeah, I'm sure that they don't do that no more. And I'm like, no, I watched it in the hallway.
Yeah, they were still
and I'm like, can you go up there and tell them they can't do that to me? And she's like, okay. Because I didn't know. It's very, very different atmosphere, very different cultures from California to Mississippi. Now I know, and I'm happy.
I did the same thing. I transferred when I was like 15 out to a school out north in Wyoming, and they didn't paddle. Like that was not how they didn't do that.
No, they didn't do it in California
but
at all.
they would beat you to death in Alabama. No, I'm just joking. That was
it's funny because my husband's from New Jersey, and he went to a private school, and he's like, oh, those nuns, man, they take rulers and just hit us everywhere.
Look, I'm like, that's true about the Catholic schools.
Yeah, he was in Catholic school.
They'd hit you on the fist and everything. That's
what he said.
Abuse, by the way. Abuse, so you know. Like, I just want to know that. I think we're, corporal punishments, I think what we're getting to talk about. And, when we first moved here, our kids were still a little bit young, but when they started the school I didn't want to give permission without me knowing that they were spanking or paddling my child. I wanted to know why, because I remember some of those kids, my buddies and others, that were getting paddled. Yeah. And that teacher could be mad and it would get out of control. And there was none of us could do anything about it. I mean, it got on it borderline abuse at times. When I'd watch it, looking back, they needed their asses beat for that, the teacher, because of the way they handled it. Hit them too high on the back, that kind of stuff. Well, that all got stopped, throughout the years, they finally stopped it. I remember someone
had when I was in high school and here in this area, the student had the principal's name on their because they had engraved their name on the paddle.
Oh, yeah, it was a whole thing. Like, they had these special paddles.
What? Yeah. That stuck with me my whole.
Oh, yeah, man. That's trauma, by the way. Yes. That's trauma. Yeah.
And so when my kids got in school, I'm like, no.
Absolutely not.
If they need a paddle, you could call me. I'll come up there and paddle in front of y'all.
That's
but
how
y'all
I was with my kids. I'm like, you're not jumping that because you got a bad day. Your wife cussed you out before you left to work, and you're bringing that stuff to school, and you're taking it out on my kid. No, sir. And I think that may have happened with some of my buddies. Like, I remember looking back on a couple of incidents that hit my mind right now, and I'm like, it was absolute unnecessary. What happened?
That was years ago too.
Yeah, but it still was.
I know, but it still runs through my mind.
And look, my mama whooped me with a switch, and I love her more than anything in the world. It was just the way they were raised, and that's how they punished.
But times it changed so much.
Yes,
from
absolutely.
20 years ago, even 10 years ago, 20 and 30 years ago. It's
40,
just,
50.
It's just different.
You get back in mind of 40s and 50s, like that kind of stuff, and so it was just the norm. Everybody got a butt whooping with a switch or something. Maybe sometimes the closest thing they can grab and hit you with. It's just accepted in society. Kind
of like how you stay. You can't come home until the lights turn on in the street. That was us too.
Yeah, same thing.
Outside, there was no staying inside.
Different day and time, different rules, and fortunately, so there's more of us, and obviously, with bigger population as our counties grow, we're getting. More things are going to happen. There's going to be a little bit more crimes. There's going to be a little bit more of everything that we're experiencing. We don't like. There obviously comes with population growth, comes with more of those issues. Yes. And so y'all are fighting hard. I know that along the sides of other agencies to try to, find them faster, get them out of the schools, out of the churches, out of the neighborhoods, wherever they're at. I know you're doing your best. How do we proactively get ahead of this?
So you can't. I wish that I'd be worked out a job and I could hang up my hat and be like, I'm not needed no more.
Yeah, right. That's never going to happen, Misty.
I know.
I don't know how old you are, but I can see you being like
I've been doing this
your 90s. You're still doing it. It's
not going to happen.
Yeah.
The best way to be proactive is you got to spread awareness about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I tell you is DeSoto County is the third highest in the state for child abuse reports.
reports.
Child abuse reports, yes.
Yep. And we're also the third highest populated county in the state.
Yep.
Yep. So that's cool. I guess
we're the highest in infant mortalities. So, and we're the second in the United States. Mississippi.
Second?
Yes.
Oh, mortality rates. Yes.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of information that goes, 1 in 4 girls are sexually abused. So let's just say, what do we have? Let me get my cell phone. So we have 42 schools, right?
Yes, I think something like that.
Okay, so let's say we have 42 schools.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just throwing a number out there. I don't know for sure. Let's just say each school has 200 girls. They probably have more. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, well, 200 would be a fair number, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so 200 girls at the 42 schools.
Oh, way more. I think that.
Yeah, I'm sure they have more.
Way more. Yeah, it's 40-something thousand students.
Yeah, well, let's just say that only 8,000 of them, 8,400, we're going to go global, okay?
There you go.
Are girls, okay?
Yeah.
And then we're going to have to divide that, or no, we'll times it to make it easier, by 25%, because that's what 1/4 is 25%. So if we did that with just that number, that's 2,100 girls being sexually abused currently in our county.
Oh, my gosh. That's just the girls, by the way.
That's just the girls.
So we're not even talking about the boys because they are another percentage.
Yes, they're another. So, that percentage fluctuates. Let me say that because it's harder for boys to be able to tell what happened to them.
Yeah.
It is let me say this. There's a huge delay in disclosure for children altogether. Right. Usually a child does not disclose about abuse until about 5 years after it happened.
Wow. So
or 5 years of it concurrently happening. Or it happened 3 times, it never happened again, and then it takes 5 years. Sometimes they won't even disclose until they're older. That's about 30% of your population. They're not disclosed until they're adults. And when I mean adults, I mean they're in their 30s. Mm-hmm. And then there was a research study done. 59-year-olds and higher males did not disclose 60% of the time until they were at least age 59.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So when you take the boys, last year it was 1 in 10. This year it's 1 in 13. So that one's going to fluctuate.
Yeah.
Some just because it's harder for boys to be able to say, this male did this to me. Because, they get that whole, whole society still of,
Well, I'm not gay.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So if they did it to you, you feel like,
yeah.
I'm assuming the kid would feel so confused on why.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now it happened to me. So am I gay because it happened, or
that? And
all that stuff,
If they've been raised doing this since a young age,
that's that too.
They know.
That's all they know.
They don't know no different.
Sometimes in the situation too, I know this from just domestic stuff and this from a personal case that's very dear and close to me. The person told me I just thought it was a norm. Not the sexual, but even just the verbal, all the stuff going on in the domestic house. And then they get to their dad's house and they'd be like, geez, it's so peaceful and nobody is hollering and screaming and fighting and cussing, every now and then, but not just constant, Yep. So when you're in the patterns of a child's mind, and they get used to what they're used to. They just think it's the norm. Yeah. You know what I mean? Even if it's hideous.
Yeah.
To the most hideous thing you can think of.
They think that's their love.
They just think that's the love.
Yep,
yeah, they think that's how they get. Yeah, it's crazy to think that because we know better. So with that, do you think there's a big disparity between, let's say, a 6-year-old and a 16-year-old as far as their unwillingness to come forward?
Okay, so a 6-year-old, depending, I'm just going to say this, depending on who's doing the abuse, okay? If it's somebody that's close in their family, most likely they love that person.
Yeah, and they think it's their way of showing them love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit harder. A 16-year-old usually does disclose sexual abuse, but it's going to be about when they were younger.
At that age, current,
6.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we do see those current ones too. Yeah. And usually what we see with that pattern is going to be they have a really good support system. An awesome support system.
So the family's just we can deal with this.
Yep.
We love you. We're going to get this.
And it's not
in
the family. It's outside the family.
Right.
And the family's they said, hey, something's not right. Kid disclosed, okay, we got to call law enforcement. It's
Again, folks, call law enforcement, period.
Yep, law enforcement.
Yep.
Call your law enforcement. So it really depends on the family dynamics. It depends on the child, the age of the child, the development of the child. Is this, prime example, so we had a younger child, and this child was raised to please her father, okay? And never knew nothing different, okay? And, she gets in school, whatever, and able to start, kind of go to the church. And she's not she's not older, but she's not young, if that makes sense. And so she gets in church, and then it's like this, something inside of her saying, hey, this ain't right. Mm-hmm. This ain't right. And I'll never ever forget this. Like she said, it was happening, and I cried out. I said, God, please stop. Mm. And then she was with us within a few days, and she said, no, it don't happen.
Wow.
But for years she had thought that was normal, but because they had isolated her so much, she knew nothing different.
And then the one time they let her go, and see what reality is outside of that place.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it was like a light bulb, and then she and literally she says, I cry out to Jesus.
Oh my goodness.
And then she smiles and she's like, and it didn't happen again.
Yeah.
He saved me. I'm here.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you.
Amazing.
And so we need to hear those things sometimes, as the staff, because we have to live these things. And so, and to us, it makes like, gosh, something, finally something stopped, mm-hmm. and it stopped quickly. Sure. We don't have to wait 10 years to figure it out. A lot of the times you have two disclosures. You have accidental and purposeful. Mm-hmm. Accidentals when they're just like, mom and dad, or they accidentally disclose to a friend at school, and then that friend goes and tells the teacher, then that's an accidental.
Sure.
And if they're not ready, when they come, they're not going to tell us.
Right. And there's nothing you can do.
Nope.
You can't go pick up the parents just because of an accusation.
Nope. It's just an
accusation. You can maybe
stop
it for a day or two, get the child out, and then you investigate it and that kind of thing, but it all goes back. If you can't prove it, then they're back in the house.
Yep.
Yeah, they're back in the house. So this is where the struggle is, folks. Without the... That's the thing.
And that's how I said it. Sexual abuse is the one abuse that only 3 to 4% actually have physical evidence as far as like DNA. Mm-hmm. Now we do have, the evidence as far as like sex trafficking or like child pornography. Mm-hmm. You do have more evidence with those cases. But those children have also, you've gone through, multiple states, multiple traffickers. People are selling the child to have sex. And so, that is a hugest crime in the world. That is one of the most money-making crimes is child pornography and sex trafficking of our children. They're our children. We're one of the highest in the world for it. And it's sad.
Why do you think that is with the highest in the world? Is it because of our laws or?
You really want my theory on this?
Tell me the theory behind it.
Okay, so I think this is my theory, okay? My theory is we hold some of the greatest technology in our hands, okay? Great technology. It's, you're talking about AI and be able to recognize, that's great. But then we took that technology and we handed it to younger children.
Right.
Okay. So the new research that came out is any child that age 12, hold on, I can tell you exactly. Age 12, where is it? 1 to 3 kids will see hardcore pornography. Hardcore. Where they're beating them, tying them up, gagging them, choking them by age 12. Why is that?
They got access. Yeah.
Right here. Because we're handing them iPads and we're handing them cell phones and we're like, oh, hey, they need it. It's for safety. 100% agree it's for safety. But it's not safe if you're not monitoring what they're doing.
Sure.
And so think about it. Our society has changed.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I watch TV, when I was younger, I didn't hear commercials about, female products or, other products. You can't even turn on the TV now, even during the daytime, without hearing those things. Our society has become very sexualized.
Sure.
It really has. You got, nothing wrong against the people that do these things, but you got Victoria's Secret always out there, and so young girls are like, oh, I need to have that type of lingerie to be very pretty.
Sure.
So they get it younger and younger and younger. Yep. Yeah. And so when I was in high school, it was like, maybe 16 or 17. And then when my kids were in high school, they're older now, but when my kids were in high school, it's like, okay, 13 or 14. And now what we're seeing that's getting as young as like 8 and 9 now. And that's sad.
Because they can find it on the internet.
They can find it on their internet and they watch it. And so you're sexualizing the children. Not only that, so what you have is while you're sexualizing the children, then you have all these perpetrators out here that have access to easy stuff. They're getting on the dark web and they're getting the child pornography, or they're learning ways, AI, GPT, whatever they're doing, looking things up. They're trying to figure out how can I get access to a kid, and it's just old schools. They go to the boy and girls clubs, or they go to Boy Scouts, or they go to church. A lot of those places trust. And granted, everybody's like, oh, what about background check? Well, they haven't been caught. There's nothing going to be there.
Well, that's just it. Like, that's just it. There's nothing going to be there until they get caught.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's a difference in background checks. A lot of people don't know that either. There's a huge difference. There's 3 different types of background checks.
Okay.
There's your local, which is your county.
Yeah.
And then you can get kind of like a medium one where it's like they check your state, but then they check nationwide sex offenders. Mm-hmm. But if you really need a good background check, you're only going to get that through NCIC, which is your fingerprint checks.
Sure.
And that's nationwide.
And expensive.
It's very expensive. So a lot of people can't afford to do those things. Churches can't afford it. They're hard to get, too. I mean, you got to pay for those.
Right.
You got to have someone, a company willing to bring in their machine, or your employees have to go travel there. You got to, do it all, and you got to get your fingerprints. And then, so it's hard. It's hard to figure out. So a lot of people think, oh, well, if I just drop this background check off here at this local place. Well, no, they're only checking. If you listen to them, they'll tell you they're only checking in the county.
Right. So that's how they can move like from county to county, state to state really easily without getting tracked. If it's not like a high profile incident or something. Yeah, absolutely. So that's how they get into our schools and our churches, guys. So. It's like, it's not our people, it's the systems.
Yep.
I want to say basically, and I think you would, you can probably enlighten me on this. I think we have an amazing school district, by the way.
I do.
Amazing teachers, amazing board, amazing superintendent.
We have some of the greatest teachers ever that really care about our children.
So I want to say that because I know we harp on a couple of individuals, all right? Mm-hmm. So it's just a couple, by the way, that was crazy enough to whatever. I mean, they have their feels, what I mean, for a reason and why they're doing what they're doing, right? So I think that we won't know that until it comes out or whatever, at some point in time they ever choose to tell us. But that's on them, right? Back when I was talking about that perpetrator that had the 20 victims, this is going back like a decade ago, maybe. There was some teachers, friends of the family that supported this guy. And we just couldn't wrap our heads around it. They would go to the church, and they would go to the jail, put money on his books. I'm like, why? Why are they doing that, And they wouldn't answer it. They just kept supporting him, And maybe it's because of their religious faith to him, him personally, and they just didn't believe he'd ever do anything like that. But there was that is so much smoke. That fire is out of control when you got that many folks coming forward. You know what I mean?
I walked into courtrooms. Yeah. I remember I worked for doing these investigations for years, and I've walked into courtrooms to testify in kids that, in circuit court that I took in custody or whatever.
Felony cases,
yes. In circuit court. And I've looked out and, directly when you're testifying, in front of me is the victim. And I'm looking over here, and I've watched the perpetrator have numerous church members sitting with them or church leadership. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking here recently. I'm just talking through my years in my career, 20 years.
We're not talking about specific cases, guys. No, we're not going to name names. We're not going to any of that stuff.
But a lot of it is the let's take Ted Bundy.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Everybody knows Ted Bundy.
All right. Yep. Wasn't he charismatic? Like people loved him, right?
Yeah, it's charismatic. Yeah. The ladies loved him. All that stuff. Yeah. So
automatically people think that, hey, you know what? If they're sexually abusing kids, no. It's got to be the weirdo.
Yeah.
No. Okay, let me say this very clearly for everybody can understand. There is no class of people that sexually abuse children more than the other. So honestly, it's more middle class and rich class.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why we talk about the Epstein files still. Yeah.
More of your hardcore, like one-time rapes, that's more your poverty or more your gang-related stuff. Mm-hmm. But the ones that are groomers, that are actual sexual predators, is more your middle and your richer class. And so, there's nothing there. There's no fun. You can't say, hey, this culture does this culture does that. It's this class of people. No, it's everywhere. Everywhere.
Unbelievable.
It is everywhere. It's just that the rich and the poor, middle class, they just have more of the funds to be able to get it, or they're producing it or selling it. There's a lot of that. They're recording things, but then they're getting online and they're selling what they did to somebody.
Wow, man.
And they're producing that child pornography.
Misty, you could do like 2 or 3 shows, I think, on all this stuff. You got such a wealth of information. Yeah. We probably didn't dive into some questions I should have asked, but these are such important topics, and how to get, just the differences, educating people is kind of what I wanted you to come on today for, and share kind of where you come from, how you're involved, and the importance of the, your amazing nonprofit that talks about the Healing Hearts Child Advocacy Program. People, y'all need to, or a center, I guess you want to call it, because it's CAC is what they call it. But the Healing Hearts is the actual name of it. And because it is identified as a separate organization than just child advocacy groups. But again, I know the impact y'all have on the county and the surrounding counties, Tunica, Tate, and DeSoto, correct?
So those are our three main primary counties. Because not all of the state of Mississippi has CACs, not every county does, or they're not able to have one within a certain mile radius. We do courtesies for about 8 additional counties.
Sure.
And we do have a MOU, which is a memorandum. It's a signed contract. But we have one with the FBI and Homeland Security. So we do have FBI flying in and doing stuff with us, and Homeland Security driving up from the south and doing stuff with us. So we do a lot of local, state, and federal.
Yeah, right. So you're doing everything to help get the child in the right hands, where they can obviously get protected immediately, and then the ultimate is to get the prosecutor or to prosecute the defendant to the maximum law. Yeah,
we hope that that they do get justice. We can't guarantee that they get justice.
It's hard sometimes, as we talked about.
Yeah. But justice isn't. And I know this may upset some people. Justice is just about the perpetrator going to jail. It's also justice is about the resiliency of the child and getting that support for that child too, and getting them to feel like, hey, you know what? This is wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
This shouldn't have happened. And I didn't do it.
I think that happens with more and more of them if they got the right people involved in their lives at the end of it. I know that certain victims eventually come to deal with it in the right way. What we don't want them to do is to feel like their support system fell down, and the way that they deal with their trauma in the future is just get on drugs or alcohol, and then they, that's a whole nother show we can do about the trauma-based side of this, to where they never really fully recover from it, and so they're looking for something all the time to self-medicate to get that pain away from them. It's wild, all these correlations. I'm not an expert. I just tell you what I've learned from folks like you.
There's a huge correlation between all of that.
So we could do a whole nother show, and by the way, we probably will. I'll have you back sometime, and we'll talk about some of the other details of things that we didn't cover today that's really important and intriguing to folks that see how things connect beside how when some of the abused become abusers in the future. And I won't talk about that today because that's a serious topic, and we can start talking, we can do that again later on. We'll maybe have a couple of months, we'll do another show when you get more time, and then we'll talk about how that is an issue. How do we stop that? It's like get involved with them sooner. Get the treatment that they need, get the mental health care that they need immediately, things of that nature to stop that. Because when we talk about a 60-year-old guy, and this, by the way, is what I was going to talk about the last thing I'll touch on, that had the 20 victims, Carl. Anyway, he was like 60. And I remember telling my mom, she said, I just can't believe that. I said, well, do you think he just woke up at 60 and started, like, Mom, there could be hundreds, if not thousands of victims. You know what I mean? Like, because, at first she was so loving of everybody, she just like, oh, I just can't believe it. It took me kind of like talking to her like that. I said, do you think this guy just woke up at 60 years old? Hell no. He's been like this his whole life. We don't even know where he really has been. You know what I mean? So
only 1 out of 10 sexually abused victims are actually going to disclose.
Yeah. So like, we don't know, and then on top of that, who hurt him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been him,
So there's not a big correlation between sexual abuse and sexual abuse. What the correlation is neglect.
Yeah.
Being a child that's severely neglected or severely abused.
Okay.
And then later on, being a sexual abuser.
Wow. So that's something we'll talk about the next show. Yeah. So that's a deep topic we got to get to. Yeah. So what else you got over there on that paper you want to talk about?
Not much more. Just some stats that I did that, 66% of our victims are actually under the age of 18 in the United States when it comes to sexual abuse.
Of any kind.
Sexual abuse of any kind. Yeah. Under the age, 66%.
Is under the age of 18.
Yeah, that's sad.
That's amazing.
And so there's 1 billion.
Unbelievable.
1 billion children worldwide that have been sexually abused.
Oh my gosh.
Over half of a million in the United States in 2022.
500,000.
Over 500,000 in the United States in 2022.
That we know of.
Yeah. So you got to keep that stat in the mind that only 1 out of every 10 sexually abused children are actually going to disclose.
Right.
So the other 9 aren't disclosing right then. Right. Later on.
So it's 5 million.
Yep.
Technically.
Yep. And then another thing is the delayed disclosures. A lot of people are like, oh, well, it happened when they were 8 or 9, they're telling that they're 16. No, that can't be accurate. No, that is accurate. That happens quite often.
Right.
In over 35% of our children, it takes at least 5 years before they can tell. At least 5 years.
Wow. And sometimes like maybe in their 40s, they wake up and they go, that, just come to this, now I can tell, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So, and then a lot of the times, there's only 1% to 2% of kids that actually don't know their abuser. So you know how when we were younger, it was that stranger danger? That is not how it really works. That's only 1 or 2% of the population of children.
Right.
It's actually 98 to 99%, depends on how many kids. Anyways, they actually know their abuser. They have a relationship with their abuser, whether it be a parent, a godparent, a church member, a teacher, a friend, a friend's parents. It doesn't matter. They have some type of relationship with it. So the more your children are exposed to overnight stays, camping trips, stuff like that, the higher probability of them becoming a victim is what the research shows.
Boy Scouts.
Yeah, Boy Scouts.
I didn't want to say that, but I'll say it. I know you can't say that.
I know my kids, like, they probably hate me because they're like, oh, I want to go spend the night. I'm like, nope.
Man, look, I got to tell you, man, we had a great network of folks in our neighborhood growing up, like with my kids and stuff, and I often, like, there's times I think, like, I think I know them pretty good, but as much as I want to trust them, we probably shouldn't. No. We really shouldn't.
And I think you should give everybody the respect and like a small amount of trust because it's human nature. And we all have morals and values. Well, a majority, not all. Let me say that. A lot of people have morals and values. So you want to give them that type of respect, but there's a different respect when it comes to actually trusting someone with your own child.
Yeah, man.
That's different. That's a life.
Well, and it's like that one little thing can go on for the whole life, like
until it gets caught.
Yeah. And then what they got to deal with afterwards, because you put and that's where the parents get to feeling guilty because of they allowed this access to happen.
Yes.
I would say that's a lot of the case when it's an outside family member that does the abuse that the family
it's
feels.
Not their fault.
It's not.
So, their fault.
That's one thing I want to reiterate with victims and their families.
I don't know if you know this, but just this year, July 1, we finally have a grooming law.
What does it say?
I haven't gotten too much into it, but it's pretty much just you can't groom children under the age of 16. I know I don't like the age limit either, but I'm proud of Mississippi. They took
a step forward.
It's a step forward. Yeah. Now, things can always be amended or added to later on, but we're glad to finally have one because that is a behavior that we see quite often in the field that we work in. There is a constant grooming.
Right.
There's a constant, you can't tell mom because I'm going to hurt mom, or you can't tell so-and-so because they're going to arrest me, or I'm going to, kill your little sibling if you tell someone. There's a lot of grooming.
You and I got to do another show. Just on that alone. And then all the other stuff going on. We'll do another one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Misty, thank you for coming today. I know we could talk all night. I always tell Derek, I'm like, man, I'll try to keep it under an hour and a half. He's like, you can't do it. You just talk too much. You got too much information, and I'm like, well, and look, we're not going to split the show up. We're going to release it in full.
Okay.
And if it was 3 hours, we'll just release it. But I know you got other stuff to do too. But amazing information today. Thank you for coming in. I wish you all the best, and congratulations again on being the nonprofit leader of the year.
Well, thank you. But I want to say congratulations to the other contendants on it, too, because they deserve it just as much as I did.
Yeah, for sure. Jenna and Annabelle for the Hope Center, the Dream Center and the Palmer Home.
Yes.
So they both are essential in our community, and as always, support all those folks. So, guys, listen, give everybody a little shout out to where if they want to help Healing Hearts, how's the best way to go financially or volunteer or whatever, So
I say the best thing to follow us on would be like Facebook. If you want to help us through Healing Hearts, you can go through our website, and we do have a link there that says donate now.
Okay.
We do have it on our Facebook too, but it's kind of pinned.
Sure.
So you kind of have to scroll through a couple of things.
Yeah.
But our Facebook is probably the most up to date.
Around here, I think one of the things, and that's why the show, I kind of force most of the activity on Facebook just because it is about the local yokels. And by the way, you are one now. There you go.
Thank you.
But it's focused on our community in the tri-state area. So like I want it to reach that audience. So I'm not really concerned about it being a big podcast anywhere other than here. We just want to get all the information out, educate people, make them aware of other organizations and businesses and things. We just want to support the community. So anyway, guys, get on there, find Healing Hearts. They can educate you too. And maybe on top of that, if you need their help anonymously, that's a way to do it, to where even if you don't want to go through the website she mentioned earlier about being anonymous, maybe you got some questions about, is this abuse? Reach out to them and they can help you with that. Just always remember, call law enforcement first if it's a real serious.
Yes, please do.
Like you just think something may be going on.
Don't want to even damage any type of case at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just that messes up a lot of stuff when you bypass that.
Yes.
Especially if you churches. Do not do your own investigation, okay? You're not smarter than the rest of us. I want to say that. You pastors that are trying to get beyond spiritual advice, stop it. Okay? I love the churches in DeSoto County. Stop trying to be more than a spiritual advisor.
Yeah, that's something we talk to our victims about too. If you have questions about God and the Spirit,
that's right. You go to the pastor.
But if you have questions about anything else, it needs to be a certified mental health.
That's right,
specialist.
Mental health specialist. Yep. So stop trying to advise people on things that you have no business or training to do. So if I take a little kickback for that, that's fine. But that's kind of where we're at with this little case here, because they sent the girl to the victim because the family trusted the church. Stop letting those folks have access to your children. And by the way, even your wife or your husband without you in the room. Okay. Yeah. So to be clear, so again, there are specialists for that, not the guy that's leading the congregation on the word of the Bible, or the female, or whoever. Yeah. I think churches are amazing. I love supporting the good ones, and I just know that they're not all as good as they seem to be. So,
but that's in any field too.
That is the same thing. Same thing.
Some churches have great people, don't have great people.
Well, there's bad apples in every orchard.
It's everywhere.
I keep saying that.
Social work too.
Yeah, absolutely. Social work. There's
teachers, law
enforcement. But for the most part, everybody's for the most part doing the best they can.
Yes, they can.
So, but again, just stop doing unnecessary stuff to protect yourself. Don't try to hide it. It's going to come out.
It will.
Know what I mean?
It will. And then it doesn't look good.
And then it looks horrible. We got a bunch of people
hindering
look horrible.
Investigation. That is a charge.
Yeah, it is. And I hope that they do some more of that too. Like, what is it? Aiding and abetting.
Yep.
They had that a long time ago, but now hindering an investigation because you decided not to report it, to cover it up, and try to keep it muffled down. So
there's a reporting law. Like if you don't report it and they find out that you knew about it, they can charge you with a felony.
They should.
Yeah.
Yeah. That might teach a few lessons. Just one guy or one instance will teach a bunch of them a lesson. I promise you. There's got to always be a guinea pig. Yep. So if there will. Again, thank you so much for coming in, Misty. And check us out, guys. Give us a follow, like on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, but primarily Facebook and TikTok, by the way. I forget about that. That's been kind of a unique little thing lately that's jumped off for us. And thank you guys for all following us on that as well. So all the likes, follows, and shares helps in a way. I'm not monetized, by the way. I want to make sure y'all are very clear of that. This is not a money-making thing. It costs me money. Mm-hmm. So my focus is just bring awareness to other things. But follow us, share our product that we push out, and also some of the other organizations that are another family that we have on here. And I call them family because once they're on the show, I just kind of we try to connect and help each other, So follow, like, and share their stuff, all right? All right, guys, next time. Bye.